we thank you all for being here. I know it takes a lot to come on a trip like this, but our goal is to assist everyone who's pro-American, pro-Israel, to be better at that and support this phenomenal president in what he's doing to save America, to save Israel. Generally speaking, everyone in here is a cultural activist. We're fighting for the American way of life against a way of life that threatens the very fabric of what we believe.
It is my pleasure and honor to introduce and bring the one and only Judge Jeanine Pirro.
It is my honor to be here with Dr. Ronnie Wexler. Can I take this?
Yeah.
Does it work?
Yeah.
I can talk louder than this.
It's really good technology.
Yeah, and I want to thank you for what you do with the Heritage Study Program, as well as bringing, I don't know if you know this, but he has literally brought 100,000 people to Israel, and he's literally touched over 100 million. Is it 100 million?
I assume through television, radio, and everything else,
Yeah.
many people got to know much about Israel. Not just by myself, I was able to do that, but I have a wonderful team of people, guides, drivers, and many helpers.
And God is on your side,
And
too.
God is on our side.
Thank you, Dr. Wexler, really. And Tom Trento, and Noah, and to all of you. First, let me say that this, for me, this trip to Israel is probably my favorite trip. This is the 4th time I've been to this country. I believe in Israel. I believe in its mission. I believe that Americans need to support Israel every chance we can get. Because but for this small country and the determination and the drive of the Israeli people and those who believe and are like-minded, the world would look like the caliphate that ISIS is trying to make it. And a little history. I am of Lebanese descent. I'm actually 100% Lebanese. My family were Maronite Christians, and my mother's family in the late 40s and early 50s, who lived in Lebanon, worked a great deal to assist individuals to get to Israel safely and provide that safe haven that so many Jews in the world were looking for. So, although I am Lebanese, I am a Zionist at heart. I believe in this nation, and I believe in its purpose. And there is nothing more satisfying than being here now. When you have the President of the United States who pulls out of the Iran deal, who stood up to the world and said, you know what? You can do whatever you want. The UK, Britain, Germany, France, we don't care. We stand with Israel. And I hope that everyone in this room understands the importance of America. Especially when you juxtapose it against the prior administration. I don't really want to spend a lot of time because I want to hear your questions, and I want to go wherever you want to go. But in the last 8 years, this country has been less than hospitable. Our country, the United States, has been less than hospitable to Israel. Whether it was the president trying to not get Prime Minister Netanyahu to speak before Congress, whether it was negotiating the deal with the devil in Tehran and sending that $150 billion, whether it was Susan Rice walking out of the United Nations when Netanyahu got up to speak, everything about what we as a country, we Americans did, was insulting to Israel. And that's why we have to try doubly, triply hard to prove that we believe in this country. I am thrilled to be able to go to the opening of the embassy. I'm doing my show here in Jerusalem on Saturday night or Saturday day, and yeah, it'll definitely be Saturday day, and then they'll air it Saturday night in the United States. So it is a powerful time for me and hopefully for all of you. Now, let me just tell you a little about me and how I got into television. If you watch my show on Fox, you know that I've been a prosecutor, a judge, and a DA. I started the first domestic violence unit in the nation as a young prosecutor when, as my children will tell you, the laws were written on stone tablets. And that was when I first understood the importance of activism. That's when I realized that people can make a difference, that nothing is written in stone, nothing. And for the 32 years that I was in law enforcement, I ran for office 5 times, and it's a blood sport, and I certainly have the scars to prove it. But I made a decision to leave, and I ran for Attorney General in New York, and I lost to Andrew Cuomo, who was the governor's son at the time, who's now the governor himself. And my life took a turn, and I got a call from Warner Brothers, and I was in television. And it was really that simple. And I was so naive when Warner Brothers called me. I said, gee, do I need an agent? And they said, no, you got us. It's okay. I'm the president of Telepictures. So when I went into television, I fully expected that I would be talking about my wheelhouse, that being crime. I mean, there was the Zimmerman case and the Casey Anthony case and the Drew Peterson case. And, you know, America was focused, starting with OJ, on crime and crime stories. And it was like what I did and what I loved. So then I get on Fox, and it was Roger Ailes who decided what the name of my show should be, Justice with Judge Jeanine. And we started talking about cases. And then I realized that in spite of my experience in law enforcement and applying it to television cases, there was more crime going on in Washington than in any courtroom in the country on any given day. And so when I moved to crime, that's when I started on the path that I'm on now. It's really very simple. It's to make sure that America is bound by the Constitution, what the Founding Fathers decided, that America respects law and order, that it respects its borders, that it respects tax-paying people who work hard to make a living, and that we should all have the ability to do and think and speak the way we want.
Hear, hear.
Yes. But it wasn't that way. And I have to say this, I have to say, for me, it all started when Barack Obama got up at the National Prayer Breakfast. You may recall that we were just thinking about and just experiencing the idea of someone getting their head cut off by wackadoos who call, you know, Islam a religion, a violent Islam a religion, which is really an ideology, and they say that we all needed to die. So it was at that point in time that Barack Obama gets up at that National Prayer Breakfast and says, you Christians, get off your high horses. I don't know if you remember that. My brain just went, what is he saying? Then he continued. You know, violent acts in the name of Jesus occurred during the Crusades and Jim Crow laws and on and on. And I said, this man isn't thinking the way I was raised to think. And when he got up on September 25th of 2012, right after 9/11, think Benghazi, think a re-election of Obama. I'll never forget it. The green marble wall at the UN was behind him. And he said, the future cannot belong to those who slander the Prophet Muhammad. And it went again. What he was saying is that I believe that anyone who slanders Muhammad cannot have a future, obviously. I'm not going to go as far as I'd like to. But what he was saying was what, in my mind, was a prediction of hate speech. Let me tell you what I'm talking about. The First Amendment allows all of us to say what we will, what we want, even if it is distasteful. That is the whole point of the First Amendment. Even if it's hate speech, as long as it doesn't incite people to riot, you have a constitutional right to say whatever you want to say. But when he said that at the UN, what he was saying is, I believe in what is going on in Europe, where people are prosecuted whenever they say anything that is seen as anti-Islam, as vis-a-vis Muhammad. Remember Charlie Hebdo? Yeah. Remember after those shootings, when 40 leaders from across the world marched in Paris, I am Charlie Hebdo. Who was the leader who wasn't there? 40 leaders, shoulder to shoulder, who, if they were in their part of the world, would be shooting at each other. The PLO guy, come on, Ronnie.
Abbas.
Abbas, no. Arafat, not Arafat.
Mahmoud Abbas.
Abbas, all right. Whatever. And so you had the Palestinians, you had Netanyahu, you had virtually every country in the world but the United States. How dare he not show up? And what makes it worse? Eric Holder left the country. He left Paris the morning of the march. He was there already. And so Donald Trump came to the United States at just the right time. And it was his rejection of this politically correct nonsense that hit us all in the gut, where we said, you know what, this guy sounds like I think, but he's saying what I'm afraid to say because they told me to be politically correct. This guy, when he talked about crime and borders and jobs and Americans, he was on our wavelength. And so you have to say to yourself, how did we get off that wavelength? It's been coming for a long time. And as my fiance said, Anthony, somebody asked him this today, said, you know, the truth is, it happened after the 60s in the schools when the liberals decided, or after Ronald Reagan, liberals decided that they were going to change the world. And they started doing it in the schools. And so you've got these millennials who think that the flag is dirty, law and order is dirty, that we cannot force people out of the country who don't belong here. Now the fact that you have to work 3 jobs and barely make it so that you can take care of people who shouldn't be here is contraindicated. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure that out. And so right now we've got a president that we elected legitimately, and this Russian collusion, delusion, hogwash, no evidence of it anywhere. And when Adam Schiff, you know Adam Schiff, the guy from California, this guy, when he stopped talking, you knew there was no Russian collusion. I mean, this guy was on the television every day. And I'm a former prosecutor, I get this stuff. Well, don't you think, Congressman Schiff, that Bob Mueller has got this in hand? Well, no, he won't go with anything unless he can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm going to find out stuff and give it to the American people. Have you heard anything? No. No. They want to stop him. He won't be stopped. The man is a force of nature. There is nothing that gets through that shell.
Thank God.
What hurts him is when people go after his kids.
And his wife.
What hurts him, and his wife, is when people go after coal miners and factory workers and people who pay their taxes. That's what hurts him. When the left doesn't allow for hardworking Americans to be safe, to say what they want, to keep their money, the dichotomy between Obama and Trump could not be more different. So what I would like to do today is take your questions and take this wherever you want to take it. But most importantly is to thank you all for being here at this historic time. And for those of you that I haven't spoken with, I'm going to ride on I decided I'm going to ride on the other bus tomorrow. Not that I've spoken to everybody on my bus. Yay! But I do want to see all of you. I do want to, you know, if you want pictures, I don't know why, but if you want pictures, I'm happy to take them. I'm here to be with you. And I thank you for being here with me. Here's the problem, to answer the question. I don't mean to make light of it. This is one of the things that brought that outsider to the Oval Office. The concept of equal justice. No one is above the law, and no one is below it. And the truth is, and this is my wheelhouse, the way the FBI handled that investigation, take it from me, it's not political. I know James Comey, I worked with him, I was the sitting DA, and he was the United States Attorney. We worked on cases together. We were both, his office in White Plains, my office in White Plains, right next to each other, all right? This guy knows that intent is not a necessary element of the crime. And for him to get up in front of Congress and swear to tell the truth and say that no reasonable prosecutor would prosecute Hillary Clinton, he is not just wrong, he is lying. And he did it for political reasons. James Comey is a liar, he's a leaker, and he's not a Republican, he's a liberal. All right? James Comey and that whole upper echelon on the 7th floor of the FBI are all corrupt. You've got McCabe, who's gone. Comey's gone. Rubicki is gone, Chief of Staff. Counsel James Baker, gone. And it's just like Rudy said, if you saw that interview. FBI agents today are holding their head down because they are so embarrassed by an investigation where you don't have a grand jury, and you don't have search warrants, and you don't have subpoenas. You hand out immunity like lollipops without any obligation on the part of the immunized person to turn evidence, without any idea or concept or intention of prosecuting someone. This is corruption that is as similar to what would go on in a totalitarian state as anything I've seen, and I know of what I speak. The other sad part of this is that not only did they not engage or use the justice system and all the weapons that we have to access evidence and information, they gave her a warning. Oh, what a joke. Hey, we may be looking for emails. I remember saying on my show, this was years ago, why are they telling her this? Just get a search warrant, send the U.S. Marshal in. Or do what they did to Paul Manafort if you want to see unequal justice. 5 in the morning, the guy's sleeping. Or Michael Cohen taking a phone right out of his hand, listening. And they made the mistake of saying they were listening to the president. They couldn't be listening to the president because, then that would be a real constitutional crisis. But they were getting a pen register of every time the president and Michael Cohen spoke. I mean, this is the stuff that's not done. And if I leave you with anything besides the fact that I love this nation, Israel, it is this. If you are not engaged in the 2018 election, if you don't do everything in your power to change what the Democrats want to do, we will lose everything, all the things that we've gained. That wackadoo Nancy Pelosi says when I'm the Speaker of the House, I'm going to raise your taxes. Guess what? People vote for that. They did it with the governor of New Jersey. All right, that's a long answer. But
Judge, we're going into this meeting.
You're speaking to the mic, please.
And the president just negated this Iran deal. And how do you react to liberals saying that the United States cannot live up to their deals? And liberals are saying, look, we broke all our deals with the American natives. We backed out of this deal. How does that look? Look, I'm just asking the question. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm going to my seat now. Go ahead.
David, no. You know, how do you respond to that? That, you know, the United States is the one nation in the world that made the decision to stand with Netanyahu? David, all you say is easy, idiot. The evidence was there. The Mossad got the evidence. Netanyahu went to the White House. He came to, he did his press conference. He had all the charts when Iran was saying we're doing this. And they had their own files that the Mossad accessed, and they're not telling us how they did it, that they were doing that. All right? When Iran was negotiating with us, and saying we're not developing the nuclear power to make a bomb, and we're not pushing the centrifuges. Remember Natanz? Do you remember the name Natanz? Natanz was that, Claire, help me with this.
Natanz is an underground facility for enrichment of uranium.
Sit down and thank you, Claire. Claire Lopez. You love Claire Lopez. She is so smart. All right, so while we were negotiating, we find out these people are trying to enrich their uranium while they're telling us they're not doing it, and we continue to negotiate. I call it dancing with the devil. I mean, Barack Obama was sending love letters to the Ayatollah. I mean, are you out of your mind or just stupid? You know, and the truth is, I think, people say, well, it's 150 billion. I would double it. Not that I know, but if they admit to 150 billion and it's cash, they didn't go through banks, they didn't wire it, they're sending it on pallets and unmarked planes, and another 400 million to go along with the release of Bo Bergdahl for the 5 Talibans. I mean, I don't want to say that it's un-American, but you might think that that's what I'm thinking, and you're right. He says that, you know, he's not a lawyer, but his interpretation of the president in the last 8 years before the 45th is what he did was an analogy or like treason. And what do I think of that? Well, what I know is that it was this administration that started the wiretap that was a fraud on the Trump campaign. It was the DNC and Hillary Clinton, with the knowledge of the Obama White House, and make no mistake about that, that created the dossier that was a fraud, and they then opened up, Obama opened up the intelligence agencies, 17 of them in January, right before, I don't mean to point my finger, in January right before Trump took office, so that somebody would leak it. Brennan wanted it leaked. They all wanted it leaked. Clapper and James Comey, if you read the memo, this memo was the reason that we were supposed to begin an investigation of the president. Now, when he was the head of the FBI, Comey could have started an investigation of the president, but there was nothing going on. When he got fired, I got to start an investigation of the president. So then you read the memo comes out and you say, oh my goodness, what's in the memo? What's in the memo? The president said, I want to know if someone is involved in anything going on with Russia. And I was never with any prostitutes in Moscow. I never had to pay for anything anyway. And, you know, it was just crazy. But anyway.
Judge, I have a question. The president's the head of the executive branch. Why doesn't he just get rid of the FBI and the Department of Justice, the officials there who are corrupt and clean house there. I'm wondering why he won't clean house.
You know, the question is a good question. Why not get rid of everybody who seems corrupt? Look, if our Department of Justice with spineless, namby-pamby, Jeff Sessions isn't going to indict anybody, you know, maybe we ought to just get rid of them. And I have absolutely promoted that. But it's not going to happen. He has the power. But if you can just think about what's happened since he fired James Comey legitimately, because of the memo that Rod Rosenstein wrote that basically said the guy's an embarrassment to the FBI, the president fires him, Rod Rosenstein appoints Mueller, who just went to be the head of the FBI the next day after Mueller isn't hired, to start an investigation of the president. I mean, it's almost like I'm in the twilight zone. And so with all of the trouble that he's gone through, you think he's going to fire Sessions? They'll investigate him for the next decade.
That's a cruel joke.
Okay, next question.
Not too early, not too early. Lots of fireworks.
One person, bad guy, that we haven't mentioned yet, is John Kerry, who is supposedly working behind the scenes to torpedo the Iranian. What insights do you have?
Not torpedo, both.
My insights regarding John Kerry is that for any former Secretary of State to get so involved at this point tells me there's more to it. And so, do I have 5 more minutes?
Why would anybody
I gotta take you on a little ride with me.
Go for it.
Why did Hillary Clinton want so badly to sell 20% of our uranium to Russian interests? Uranium, obviously, is needed, you know, to create a nuclear weapon. That's no surprise. They promised that the uranium would never leave the United States, and of course, the uranium has left the United States via truck into Canada, and we have no way of knowing what happened after that. So now what we have is uranium leaving the country. Clinton's got at least 150 million that we know of in their organized criminal enterprise known as the Clinton Foundation. And Bill gets a quick 500,000 cash for a 20-minute speech in Moscow. And so you say to yourself, okay, what's going on? Fast forward. There's something called Molly 99. You ever heard of it? Yep, nope, okay. I didn't know about it until I had cancer. And I never talked about my cancer. You've been watching me on Fox. You didn't know it. What year is it? 2018. 4 years ago, I had no hair, no eyebrows, no eyelashes. I was wearing a wig. Nobody knew it. Because when you're... Turn that thing off. When you work in... when you work in shark-infested waters, you don't want to bleed in front of anybody. And so I didn't. And I never intended for anyone to know that I had cancer and chemo and radiation and all that other stuff. And I'm fine. So Molly 99 is used to make nuclear medicine. 45 million Americans have used nuclear medicine to assess their illnesses and to help treat their illnesses, whether it's heart disease, cancer, diabetes. Nuclear medicine is the medicine of today. Molly 99 is the essential ingredient to make nuclear medicine. Do we make Molly 99 in the United States? No. Stay with me. Who makes Molly 99? Russia and Iran. All right? Just think about it. So we sell 20% of our uranium. It's going to Russia by everybody. And the president makes the deal in Iran. And the president, and I remember my brain went, when he said something like, it's for medical reasons that we're doing this Iran deal, and young Iranians will be able to get a job. And I remember saying to myself, who gives a damn? I want kids in this country to get a job. Why is he talking about that? Because we import Molly 99 from people who are our enemies. It's a national security risk. It is a health risk. And guess what? We export uranium through the Clinton Foundation to Russia, and then we buy it back at a higher price. It's a game, it's a fraud. The whole thing is corrupt. That's what that was all about. And so I went on air. So what's this have to do with anything? I went on air and talked about my cancer, I don't know, 6 months ago, and said, we need to create Molly 99 in the United States for my children and your grandchildren. I don't want my Molly 99 being made in nuclear medicine by some dirtbag who hates America, thinks Israel and America should be destroyed. I don't want that because these corrupt players made a decision to make some money for themselves. This is the critical point we're at now. So when I talk about 2018, you've got to do something about it, okay?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you initially got caught up into the public arena by Warner Brothers, is that right? And what happened with your relationship with them when you became more outspoken? Did they say leave and...
Okay, when I first, right after I lost the election, I went to work for Warner Brothers, and I got a syndicated show, for which I won an Emmy. Yeah, you didn't know that, did you? Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. It sits on my piano. It's worthless. Anyway, no, I don't mean that. You know, I don't know why you're tape recording me.
Because we love you.
Yeah, okay. So, no, I know where you're going. Where you're going is, did California and the liberals, you know, not like you because you're outspoken? No, I'll be honest with you. After 4 years, my show wasn't renewed. So I went to Fox. Although, my friends all call me and say, I wake up every morning, my old friends, I wake up every morning and think we're at war with North Korea. Can you just tell them to stop it? I can't deal with it. So, well, we all, and this is, I think, an important issue, all of us have lost friends because we believe in the America that the Founding Fathers believe in, because we have a president who is you know, motivated by moral reasoning, because we have a president who wants to make us great again. What you need to say, if you want to, and we all have, me, all of us, is they supposedly were the party that was the, you know, overwhelmingly accepting of everyone, and yet we're not allowed to say what we want. You know, my friend Ann Coulter tries to go to Berkeley and they want to shut her down. You know, you dare, I go to NYU, to the campus, to do street justice. I am screamed at, cursed at, and people say things to me that I couldn't repeat in public. And I got quite a mouth, but I can't repeat it. And the truth is that they are shutting us down. You don't have to scream back. All you have to do is use your social media, use your phones, go into the senior citizens' homes right before the election and move the political dial wherever you're from. We can keep America the way we want. And unfortunately, we could also lose it because of the Soroses. Yes. But this I know. I know Donald Trump. I know him for 30 years. I know Jared. I know Ivanka. They're going to be here for the opening of the embassy. Donald Trump has already done things that would never have been predicted, let alone actually happen. Look at North Korea. As we speak, the 3 hostages are on their way back. Under Obama, Otto Warmbier warm beer. I don't want to think about what they did to that young boy and what his parents are going through, like you're going through every day. If anyone's going to do it, he's going to do it. But it requires that we stand strong with Israel. It requires that we give them everything that they need. Okay, the doctor's back. Let me say this, that what we're talking about now is really important. It can throw us back to the Dark Ages.
Crusader period.
Crusaders, hopefully. And it's very easy. It's an electromagnetic pulse. You could create this havoc. North Korea, and I think it was Frank Gaffney, Claire, and Tom, who first showed me some of the ships near the Panama Canal. Was it? It was classified stuff that had the rockets that could send the EMP in to break the grid down. It's real simple, folks. The FAA gets messed up. You're on an airplane, you're screwed. You've got your, if you're in a hospital, if you're on any kind of medical machine, you want to go to the bank to get your money, your cell phone's not going to work, they can do it to us very easily. So when I first got involved in this, I started going to Washington to say, why is no one doing anything about this? And the truth is, it's real simple. They're not doing anything about it because of this. Because the electrical companies and the local companies, and understand that the electric grid in the United States is like a third world country. It's balkanized. You've got this company, that company, and they all are supposed to be connected to a larger grid. You could take us down in a minute, cyber or nuclear, all right? Or natural. I think every 157 years, I forget what it's called,
coronal mass ejection.
Yes, that's it. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen. We're almost due. And this is something that will kill us. It will, without a doubt, kill us. The Congress and Senate will do nothing about it because the lobbyists are giving them money so that they can run again. And if you think they're there, especially in Congress, to take care of you, think again. They have to make money to run every 2 years, and that's easy money. So right after there was an attack at the San Jose power plant, I went out there and I did some of my own investigating, and I did some stuff out there. One night, 17 transformers are taken out in the substation in San Jose. Now they did it with surgical precision. They did it without being accessed by a camera. They did it by lifting up some kind of a concrete top off to get into the property. And I don't recall it because it was, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. I really don't remember specifically. My prosecutorial instincts are like, this is they're casing this thing out. Because think about it. If you're in Silicon Valley and you can take out the grid, then that is a perfect setup. So the local police, and they call in the FBI, they say, oh, this has nothing to do with terrorism. This is just, you know, Bubba got drunk one night, took his shotgun out. So Pacific Electric and Gas, fast forward, you know, they get like, I don't know, 3 billion, 3 million, I don't know what the number was. They're going to secure that San Jose plant so nothing like this ever happens again. No one was ever caught. A year later, some punks break into the plant to steal some machines and equipment. They never locked that plant down. This is all about not requiring the local electric companies and the power companies to bring up their standards so that we're protected. And what I said was, look, if you got Lloyd's of London insuring you, then you have an obligation, a fiduciary obligation, to make sure that you're covered in the event there is a catastrophe. You've got to make sure that this stuff is strong and strengthened. and no one's done it. So if I talk to Donald, I'll tell him.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for the work that you do, and I'm so happy that you have a president like Donald Trump, and we're working hard in Australia to get someone with big balls like you have.
Judge, I would like to know what your opinion is on where the Mueller investigation is going, and when will it be over?
It's going nowhere. There's no collusion with Russia. That's done. Obstruction of justice, there is no obstruction of justice. The president has the plenary power, and under Article 2 of the Constitution, to hire and fire whoever he wants. And, you know, firing James Comey was perfectly, you know, legitimate. And just like James Comey said, if you remember this, right after he was fired, James Comey said, the president can fire me for any reason or no reason. That's James Comey saying it, so there's no obstruction. Now we've got Mueller sending to the Southern District of New York the attorney-client, Michael Cohen. What the feds do, and this judge, T.S. Eliot III, blew me away if you saw my show last weekend, when he said, all you're doing is pulling the short hairs on this guy to try to get him, Manafort and, he only talked about Manafort, but Gates maybe, to turn against the president. So let's assume they turn against the president and they say the president knew about Stormy Daniels, all right, and approve the payment. But as Rudy said when he finally said it, he said, this wasn't done for campaign reasons, it was done for family reasons, right? And as long as it was done for those reasons, I imagine any man with a serious amount of money wants to shut somebody up who was either crazy or, you know, a porn star. You know, that is not a circumvention of the federal election rules.
So what gave Mueller the right to go investigate anything but collusion or the Russia?
The first order was that, and it was signed by and written by Rosenstein. The first order is Russia and related matters. So Mueller comes out with these indictments having to do with, you know, Manafort working for the Ukrainian government, having nothing to do with the Russian government, bank fraud, money laundering, and all that other stuff. All of a sudden now, we're hearing about more things, and we find out that Rosenstein, a few weeks ago, added to the order, and we didn't know about it. So this is the deep state, meaning those people who've been in the government for years and believe as like middle management that they've got more power, know better what we should do, and so they are now continuing the investigation. Sessions has to be fired. He doesn't have the political balls to do what he's got to do. All right? It's not going to happen. Rosenstein needs to be impeached. So, when you got a Mark Meadows and a Ron DeSantis and Jim Jordan and all those guys, you know, they have to move on that, or Rosenstein is going to protect everyone in the FBI. Lisa Page is gone. Strzok is still there. My sense is that Strzok is cooperating, all right? And there's a name, and I said this a month ago, that none of us ever hears about, and maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I want you to remember this name. Bill Priestap. He's in the FBI. They haven't incriminated him in any way. They haven't fired him. We haven't heard anything bad about him, which tells me that whatever was redacted, or whatever came out, what little came out, was redacted to take his name out. I believe he's cooperating. All right, so in the end, the answer to your question is very simple. As long as Rod Rosenstein stays there and has the power to keep expanding that works for the Democrats. It'll work its way into the 2018 election when everyone will say they're still working on the Russia collusion, and they're hoping that it's going to inure to the benefit of the Democrats in the House. If the Republicans decide to defund, and you've got this idiot, Grassley, with all due respect, and I interviewed him in D.C. a few weeks back, They put a law out of, he sends his law out of, a bill out of the Senate Judiciary that no one can fire Mueller. What are you so worried about? The president shouldn't be able to fire Mueller? Why don't you do something legitimate, relevant, important? The House has passed over 400 bills, the Senate's passed 2? All right? It is the deep state, and I'm writing a book about this now that I think about it. I forgot to say it. I'm working on it now, if I don't look at you when I'm writing. It's called Liars, Leakers, and Liberals, the Anti-Trump Conspiracy, and it's coming out at the end of June. So maybe you'll be a good book.
Last question. This will be the last question.
Awesome. Hey, Judge, you talk about it on your show all the time. You just talked about it, the corrupt federal government. So our system was set up that representatives represent the people, senators represent the state. They're supposed to be the 100-ton freighter going through the water, saying no to all the crazy crap that they come up with, and the president represents the country. So the 17th Amendment took that away, and so we essentially have senators who are 6-year representatives. What do you think about repealing the 17th Amendment and the importance of that in this war to take back the country and restore rights to the states and take it out of the hands of the federal government?
It's a tough one. You can hang on to it. I'm not going on that long. You know, what you're talking about, obviously, is a very sensitive issue. I mean, do we return the power to the states? Do we make sure that everything from education to healthcare, Medicaid, Medicare, all of that stuff is handled and paid for by the states without the FBI, without some of these the federal bloated government? I'm not there yet. I really am not. And you could probably say a lot more that would convince people in the room of that. We have the man in the White House right now who is perfect. If ever the swamp is going to be drained, Donald's going to do it. He's not beholden to anyone. And people forget this. Lobbyists don't make a damn bit of difference to him. I know the man 30 years. I used to fly on his plane with him every weekend when my ex was his lawyer. We go down to Palm Beach every weekend with him and his kids and us and our kids. All right? The man is brilliant. He is fearless. And as much as his kids say, you know, he didn't need this, he didn't have to do it, they understand he's on a mission to clean up the swamp. He also knows that there's only so much he can do, that it is so vast, it is so pervasive, that you've got people who, look who just left, McMaster just left, right? In the NSC. Thank God it's right. You know why? And I'm not going to waste a lot of time. The Muslim Brotherhood. Hillary brought them in. Obama brought them in. When Obama did his first speech in Cairo, Egypt in 2009, the apology for being an American speech, first 2 rows are filled by Muslim brothers whose invitations came from the White House. It's vast. But you know what? I wouldn't move on the other. We've got to elect him another time. We've got to get 4 more years out of him.
I want to tell you something about Queen Esther. Those who don't know the story about Queen Esther was asked to go and intervene to save the Jewish people. Her husband was King Cyrus, and she said to her uncle, Mordecai, listen, I wasn't called to meet with him, and I can't. I'm going to be killed. And he said to her, for times such as this, you came to the kingdom. Jeanine Pirro, for times such as this, you have the power to change the world. Thank you so much. We have another day tomorrow, Golan Heights. Nothing changed. We still have the green light to visit every place we wanted to visit. And God is with us. And I think it's going to be a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Good night. I'll see you in the morning for breakfast.
Thank you so much.